Hello guys, once again it's Matt and today we have another video. Thank you all the members, all the patrons, make sure to subscribe and let's get into it. Not too long of a video, but a very interesting thing, okay? So, yes guys, remember we got the SU-39, right? As a preview, and they already confirmed that more advanced SU-25s will come in the future, right? One of them could be the SU-25TM, which is basically the domestic version of the Su-39. It's basically the same aircraft. I don't know if they're going to add it or not, but still, it might be added. I don't know. The thing is that for both the Su-25TM and the Su-39, we have two pods that could be added, extra two pods that could be added, right? And one of them is very, very interesting. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So, of course, we have the Kopil-25, which is a multi-mode radar, so air-to-ground and air-to-air radar, right? And we have the Mercury pod, which is a low-light television system, which is basically an NVD, a little bit of a different NVD, but basically an NVD, right? So, yeah, but we do have two other systems, the Kinzhal and the COD. So I wanted to talk a little bit about both of them. One of them was actually found in the files, as you can see right there in the screen, right? So it is pretty interesting. This is the COD pod. So let's talk about it first. So the COD was actually an imaging infrared pod. It was actually produced in around 1991. You know, the prototype was first tested in 1991. It was basically cancelled in late 1994. It might be due to the, problems that were happening in Russia in the 90s, right? But basically, what it was basically a better Mercury pod. What better? What do you mean about better? Well, it was an imaging infrared pod, so it is thermal. Okay, so basically the Su-39 could in theory get a thermal imager, and it is even in the files already, so that would be very, very interesting, right? As I said, it was kind of cancelled and they never produced anything else with it, and even the Su-25TM was kind of just forgotten because they just wanted to produce the Su-25SM, right? Or not produce it, but basically upgrade the older Su-25s to the SM, SM3 upgrades that would make it a lot more cheaper and just a little bit easier to do, even because it's not a new aircraft. It's just an upgrade to the older Su-25s, and they're being used right now, on the ongoing war. So it is interesting that they actually added these pods and stuff, but they didn't went forward. It is pretty much like the Kopil. The Kopil was a more produced version just because it is basically the radar that the MiG-21 93 used. And the Mercury as well, even though it was kind of, nobody even liked that thing because it was only like really usable at night and more to fly around instead of just using for combat. And the COD would basically substitute that, producing infrared imaging, right? Thermal imaging. So that would be very interesting. And the second one, which is a very, very interesting one, actually, it's a little bit less useful, to be honest, for the, for the game. But it also has an interesting, concept behind it, which is the Kinzhal, or the Kinzhal S, at least. It is an imaging radar. So basically, the Su-25TM, like many other aircraft, they wanted to have a imaging radar. What is an imaging radar? Well, it's a radar that will produce a ground image in front of the aircraft, right? And with that, it can be used for reconnaissance, it can be used for ground attack, it can be used for many things. It can be used for detecting ships, for example, infrastructure, column of tanks, whatever you want, this type of radar can do. And basically would produce a very, at that time, high definition image of the area in front of it. And then with that, the pilot could actually take this information and get back to base, for example, and then the tanks could actually, do some reconnaissance to see what the enemy has, whatever, right? So very interesting actually to see this. We already have aircraft that technically could have this imaging radar, which is, for example, the AK-141, right? I think even the Kopil-25 has some sort of, thing that it can do that. I don't know how precise that would be. Technically, the Kinzhal would be better at this, but at the end of the day, it got cancelled as well. They say that Lelinets, which was the OKB that was producing it, or the design bureau that was producing the Kinzhal, experienced enormous problems with the radar development. So they basically just abandoned it. It's probably just better to use other systems and other aircraft, but I am pretty sure that it's just due to the fact that the economics of the 1990s were problematic, and they were not investing too much back in that time. Maybe they would resolve these problems if the development continued. So a lot of the design philosophies and design ideas that they had in the late 80s were kind of dropped out in the 90s due to the economic financial problems of 90s Russia, right? The same way as the COD was kind of forgotten, the Kinzhal was kind of forgotten. As I said, the Kinzhal wouldn't be that much of a big deal, because imaging, it would be okay to see it, it would be fun, but not really, really useful maybe. But the COD would definitely be a major step up from the Mercury pod and the radar that we used in the Su-39, right? So, I don't know, it is in the files, we don't know if it's coming or not. Probably for another version of an aircraft or something like that, we don't know. But it is interesting to actually see this type of system in the game. Because right now, to be honest, man, there isn't much of an aircraft in the Soviet-Russian tech tree that has infrared or thermals, right? So it would be very different. Apart from helicopters, right? But they didn't particularly did the use of thermal imaging until very late. So it would be very, very interesting to see that. Is it needed? Well, that's another question. I don't think so, because it is already kind of a very good CAS aircraft, the Su-39. The Soviet Tech Tree is already one of the best in the game, right? It has basically everything that it's good about a 3. So very good tanks, very good AA systems, very good everything. So that might be a problem that it's worth to talk about, right? But even though, with all of that, it would be cool to see these type of systems the same way that if an R-77 is ever added to the game, which is probably, it's already confirmed that it will eventually, it would be cool to see in the Su-39 as well, right? Even though it would be completely, weird to see it with that, it would be cool. You gotta admit, right? So, yeah. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments what you think if the Su-39 deserves the CLOD infrared thermal pod or not. See you guys in the next one, and bye. See ya.